Hello everyone, my name is Samira and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a very special one because today marks my 1 year anniversary on BookTube. This year has flown by. I cannot believe it's already been 1 year since I took the leap and started this channel. So today I figured to commemorate this special moment, I would do the 20 question book tag, just so that way we can get reacquainted with each other and you guys can kind of get to know my reading taste as a reader. But before we get onto the tag, I figured I'd just quickly introduce myself with the basics. Hi, hello, my name's Samira. I just turned 24 3 days ago. I'm working in biomedical research, hoping to start my master's in the fall. And much like everyone else, reading is my favorite pastime, as you can tell. And without further ado, let's get on to it. So question 1 is, how many books is too many books in a series? As I've gotten older, I feel like 3 books is the sweet spot in any sort of series. Anything longer than 3 books is just far too many for me, in my opinion. Back when I was younger, I could just inhale book series with 6+ books in them, and I just don't have that stamina anymore. I just have a really special place in my heart for trilogies. I feel like trilogies are the perfect in-between. They just are the perfect amount of books in a series to have that gets the job done while also not rushing everything, but also not dragging it along too much. Anything longer than 3 books is too much for me. Question number 2 is, how do you feel about cliffhangers? Honestly, I have a rather love and hate relationship with cliffhangers, in the sense that if I'm reading a book series as the books are coming out and reading the cliffhanger without the following book being out already, then I absolutely hate myself, because I hate all of the unresolved feelings that come with a cliffhanger and not having the following book to answer it on hand right away. But if I'm reading a series that all of the following book is already out following the cliffhanger, I have no problem whatsoever. If anything, it keeps me intrigued, it keeps me going. I think the perfect example of this is the From Blood and Ash series. I read the first and second book back to back, and the cliffhanger of the first book, I was so grateful that I had the second book on hand. However, when I read the second book, I had to wait months on end for the third book. Same goes for the third book. I read it right when it came out. So second and third books, there was a big gap between the following books coming out and me finishing those books, and that just was not a pleasant experience for me. So I think that perfectly encapsulates my complicated relationship with book cliffhangers. Third question is, hardcover or paperback? I would say longevity-wise and aesthetic-wise, I would definitely say hardcover, but I feel like when I'm reading, it's more comfortable to read on a paperback. I honestly nowadays prefer audiobooks and ebooks sometimes, but when I am reading a physical book, I do prefer a paperback, just because, again, it's easier to read in my opinion. Hardcovers are just kind of bulky to lug around, especially like paperbacks, you can just stick it in your purse or whatever, but hardcovers are a lot heavier and bulkier to carry around with you. If we're talking like sitting on your shelves, longevity, aesthetic wise, I love hardcovers, but practically I love paperbacks. Question 4 is your favorite book, which is very hard for me to answer. If I were to ask myself this and not think about it, my first answer would be Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. I read this at the perfect time in my life, and it just was such a comfort read to me, and it still is, and I just adore that book so much. It's like my soul in a book, and I just feel like it perfectly captures me as a person, as a reader. I would definitely say Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. Question number 5 says, your least favorite book. Upon scrolling through my Goodreads, I think my answer for this, at least for now, would be The Toll. I remember reading this as an early copy, and I just hated everything about it. When I try to recall what all happened in that book, all I can remember is just the feeling of distaste and dislike and just overall not having a fun time. I would definitely say that this is probably my least favorite book that I can think of at the moment. Again, this is always changing as I'm going along. Luckily, in recent times, I have read a lot of good books, so I would say that's probably my answer for that one for now. Question number 6 is love triangles, yes or no? Back in 2015, 2016, maybe even before then, when love triangles were in every single book that you would pick up, I just felt like it was a waste of time. I didn't really care for the needless drama. The first love triangle that comes to mind is Katniss, Peeta, and Gale from the Hunger Games. I just didn't understand what the point was. I just hated Gale so much. I said, why are we all wasting our time with all these people who are Team Gale when we clearly know who the correct option is and the only option, the best option? I think that's why I had a distaste for them in the past. I think in recent times, I have come to sort of give it a pass if they each have something equal to offer in their respective relationships. Bonus points if it ends in a poly relationship. Hello, Kirartina, Markertina, whatever their ship name is. And here's to manifesting that the same scenario happens in the From Blood and Ash series. I feel like I'm okay with it if it ends in a poly relationship, only if they all have something to offer in the relationship. Question 7 is the most recent book I just couldn't finish. A few weeks ago, it would have been A Crown of Gilded Bones. However, I forced myself through that book, so we can't have that for this question. So I would have to say Catherine House. I listened to this as an audiobook, and I was really excited because I just love the dark academia genre and vibes, but I have yet to find a book in that genre that I absolutely love, and I was very intrigued by this book because again, it's the dark academia vibe, genre, the whole thing. But I probably listened to maybe a quarter of the book when I just gave up on it, because when I read reviews for this book, they weren't lying when they just said it's vibes, no plot, because that's basically what it was. I don't mind pretty writing. I am a sucker for pretty writing if there's enough significant plot to back that up. I feel like that is a match made in heaven. But if it's just pretty writing the whole time, I'm just like, okay, we need some sort of substance to keep me going, and that book just didn't have it for me. Question 8 is a book I'm currently reading, which I have many that I am currently reading because I just haven't been able to stick to a book in a very long while. Physically, I am reading The Atlas 6, which if you have not heard about, it's basically about the secret society that is passing along the knowledge of the Great Library of Alexandria, and that's just everything to me. Like, growing up, I was such a sucker for the National Treasure movies, and this just kind of gave me the same vibes, but with the Great Library of Alexandria. And it ties in with magic as well, and it's just everything I could ever love in a book, and I have very high hopes that I'm gonna enjoy it. So far, I am enjoying it. It's just, it's requiring a lot of brain cells for me that I am having to offer sparingly. I don't really have the time or energy for it right now, but I am reading it slowly, and so far I can definitely say I'm really enjoying it so far, and I'm hoping I can finish it soon. And so that's what I'm reading physically, and on my audiobook I am re-listening to We Hunt the Flame. My library holds for We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars finally came in, so I'm hoping to refresh my memory listening to the We Hunt the Flame audiobook and then hopping right into We Free the Stars. Question 9 is the last book I recommended to someone, so I got approved for the sampler of All of Us Villains. It's safe to say that I am hoping and praying I get approved for this book. I need to get answers. I was obsessed from the first paragraph. If you haven't heard about it, you should definitely look into it, but it's basically the Hunger Games but with villains, where it's this little town that's overrun with dark magic, and there are 7 prominent families in this town. To prevent one family from completely taking control of this dark magic, they have this tournament that takes place every generation where each of the 7 families have to basically volunteer the best member of their family that they feel best represents them, and they send them to this tournament, and they basically kill each other until there's only one remaining, and whichever family that person comes from or hails from, they're the ones that get to basically control this dark magic for an entire generation until this whole process starts over again. Let me tell you, it's so morally gray. The characters are just conniving little geniuses. The death grip that Sampler had on me, I'm just hoping and praying I get approved for this, because I have a feeling that whenever I get to read this book, it's gonna become my entire personality. I'm recommending it to you now to keep it on your TBR because it's so good. Question number 10 is the oldest book I've ever read, and conveniently, this book was published in the year 1010, and that is Shahnameh, and this is basically an epic fantasy that's from ancient Persia. I've listened to my dad tell me stories from this when I was younger. I have yet to actually finish the entire book because that book is huge, and I've also been kind of reading up on it because I'm actually using it as research for my little whip I've been writing up. Question 11 is newest book you've read, and I believe it's a three-way tie for this. They all came out on June 1st, so that would be Neon Gods, Ace of Spades, and The Chosen and the Beautiful. I ended up really enjoying Ace of Spades and Neon Gods, probably two of my favorite books I've read so far this year, whereas The Chosen and the Beautiful was kind of a disappointment for me. I think I was expecting a lot from this book and it just didn't seem to hold up for me. I do have the review on my Goodreads if you want to check that out. And yeah, question 12 is favorite author. I don't really have a set favorite author. I feel like what entails a favorite author is for me to have given them all 5 stars for every book that they've ever come out with, that I read every single book that they have come out with, and I just feel like that's physically impossible for me, kind of. But I think the closest ones that would come to that are Cassandra Clare and Leigh Bardugo. Cassandra Clare, I have read her books since the beginning. I've read her books since high school, and I think the exceptions to the books that she's come out with that I haven't read are probably her short story compilations. I just am not a fan of short stories in general, so I haven't really read those, but I've read all of her major books though. For Leigh Bardugo, kind of the same thing. I haven't really read Lives of the Saints yet. I want to because I've heard that Ben Barnes narrates it, so obviously I'm gonna listen to it. But same thing with her. I have read all of her major books, of course, but Lives of the Saints I haven't. I would definitely say they're two of my favorite authors. Cassandra Clare, again, just holds a very near and dear place in my heart. She's the author of Chain of Gold, which I mentioned previously is probably my favorite book ever. And Leigh Bardugo, as I've gotten more into writing, I just have a newfound appreciation for her own writing. Of course, before, I just really enjoyed her books for their storylines and the way she tells her stories, but as I've started to write more frequently, I've started to pay attention to the writing styles of authors that I read, and her writing style just jumps out to me the most, stands out to me the most amongst all of the authors I've read. How she tells her stories in a very fairy tale-like manner, and I just adore her writing, and I've been lucky enough to meet both of them as well, and yeah, I just love them. Question 13 is buying books or borrowing books. Growing up, I'd definitely say buying books, but as I've gotten older, I'd say borrowing books. I have been trying to work on my personal library of just owning books that I absolutely adore. I would rather quality versus quantity. When I was growing up, I definitely thought quality over quantity in that manner, that I just wanted to have this big library. I didn't care if I loved or hated a book. I just wanted to have as many books as possible in my library. But now, as I've gotten older and kind of want to be more conscious towards my spending and capitalism and whatnot, I want to be more mindful of that. As I've gone along, I want to have a more tailored personal library where I just want to have books that I really adore and love. Question 14 is a book that you dislike that everyone else seems to love. I would have to probably say A Darker Shade of Magic and Vicious, which both happen to be by V.E. Schwab, which is very unfortunate to me because we both share the same birthday, and you would think that I would love her books, but that just doesn't seem to be the case. Unfortunately, I have tried to read A Darker Shade of Magic probably 3 times, and I think I've gotten halfway each time and just never got around to finishing it. Let me know if you think I should finish it. I feel really bad because like I know a lot of people adore that series and I want to know why, but at the same time I've tried so many times to read it and I just couldn't finish it. Vicious I actually did end up reading and finishing because I heard that if there was one book that I would love by V.E. Schwab, it would be Vicious, because it's basically Marvel meets dark academia, and I was like, hello, my entire brand. But again, I just feel like it was overhyped in my opinion. I just kind of was not as obsessed as I was hoping I would be. But definitely let me know if you think I should give A Darker Shade of Magic another try. We will see if I want to put my brain cells up to that. Question 15 is bookmarks or dog ears? Bookmarks for sure. Never dog ear. If it means I have to use a receipt, I will do that. There was even a point in my life that was peak chaos and I would just memorize the page I was on rather than dog ear. So yeah, bookmark all the way. Question 16, a book you can always reread. I would definitely say Chain of Gold again. Again, it's my comfort read and I will reread it as many times as I want to. Question 17, can you read while listening to music? Music, no, because music gets me very distracted because I just start singing along to it, especially if it's a song I really enjoy. But if it's any other type of noise, I'm perfectly fine. Question 18, one POV or multiple POVs? I feel like for this particular question, it's a case-by-case scenario. For romances, I tend to like only one point of view because I feel like it adds to the angst where we're only in the head of one person and knowing their thoughts and feelings towards the romantic situation, and the other person in question, we don't know what they're thinking, we're kind of guessing, and I feel like that just adds to the overall enjoyment of the experience and the angst. However, with fantasies, I feel like if done well, multiple POVs would work well. Case in point, Six of Crows. I think that's the best example I can think of. I think for romances, I prefer one POV, but in certain fantasies, I prefer multiple. Question 19, do you read in one sitting or over multiple days? Growing up, one sitting. Nowadays, multiple, because I just don't have the attention span to read in one sitting anymore. Finally, question 20, who do I tag? Literally anyone who wants to do this. I hope this was a fun way to get us reacquainted. And yeah, let me know if you do this tag. And until next time, bye!